Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Thank you for being here. If you can take a second and just type in the chat room if you can hear me okay, that would be really, really helpful. So if you can just let me know, because you never know with technology if this stuff is gonna be goofy. So if you can just let me know that you can hear me, that would be really helpful. So just type it in the chat and then we'll dive in and get started. So thank you. There we go. All right. So you guys can hear me. Cool. Now, is anybody else here? I'm just curious. I am a total American Ninja Warrior addict. And if you saw the whole program, do not tell me the end because I've been doing webinars all night and I recorded it and I've seen about 2/3 of it. So don't tell me the end. Okay. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever saw a million years ago the episode of MASH where they were going to listen to the delayed broadcast of some, I think the World Series game or something, and it was like, don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody. And then the one who always dressed like a woman to try to get out of the army came through and basically told them the score or something. Anyway, all right. So we're here tonight to talk about virtual parties. All right. So I have become passionate about this whole topic. In fact, last January, I started studying virtual parties because I had coaching students who would tell me, they were doing these virtual parties and they were frustrated. And Lori, thank you for being here on this webinar too. One of my students in this, we call it the Dreamers group, who has been having some phenomenal success. Lori, congrats. So even in our group there, you saw we had a member of the group who, it was like this, she had booked this Facebook party, and we also will, we understand if that's what you've committed to, but try to make it a live party if you can. And it became like this Facebook party that just started to just drive her nuts and suck away all of her energy. So I really had, 8 months ago, I dove into studying the whole concept of virtual parties, and I got so excited about it that, basically I attended a bunch of parties. I held a party so I could experience it from a hostess perspective. We just learned all kinds of things. And so tonight on this webinar, that's what I want to share with you, is what we've learned and what we recommend, and just some additional information. Okay? All right, so let's dive right in. All right, so what we learned is that, first of all, Facebook parties are really tough. Okay, so depending on how a person runs their Facebook party, some people like to do, posts every 5 minutes and try to get their guests engaged. Oftentimes we found that the pictures weren't very great pictures, right? Unless they had some really good images from their company. Some people have way too much wording on the images, and so they were, lots of words to try to read. Some of the posts got really long. In any case, the other thing about Facebook, remember, is that I know some people will number the posts, but if you don't have, because every time someone comments on a post, it moves that post back to the top, right? So from a sales perspective, it's not giving you your party in a logical sequence, if that makes sense. Okay, like selling's a process. You always want to take people down a clear path to the end goal, which is buy lots of products, book future parties, and check out the business. And so when people come in at different times and they don't get to necessarily look at everything in order, it just doesn't help that process. The other thing we saw is that some people were running Facebook parties for weeks. And one of my coaches, he says, You can move very quickly from being a welcome guest to being an annoying pest. And if you're running a party for 12 days straight or however long it is, it does start to get people's a little annoyed. So you want to be careful of your time frames. We also saw several where there was very little engagement, because one of the problems is, even if people tell you they're going to attend, unless they actually comment on a post, you don't know if they're there or not. Okay, so it's a tough platform, and to be honest, I don't recommend it for your parties. Then we participated on some other platforms where combinations. So some of them have been on platforms where you can see all the guests and they can talk, like a Google Hangout or Fuse or Meet.fm. So those are nice because it's, everybody can talk and engage, and it's a really great place to be. Okay, some of the platforms where people are just presenting and nobody else, they can chat, but they're not necessarily talking, meaning, chat like this, but they're not necessarily talking. Those are better than Facebook, but not the ideal platform in my book. Now, there are some platforms, and I'm going to be talking about different types of virtual parties here in just a minute, but keep in mind that on some of these platforms, even when they were, people could connect and communicate and see each other, oftentimes the consultants had really poor lighting or really poor sound, and so that didn't make it, for a very good experience either. In fact, I watched one event where the woman had her husband upstairs on another computer working behind the scenes on things. She was at her computer and stuff kept going wrong. And then she had a consultant who was there helping, and she kept running back and changing her clothes, which they were selling jewelry, okay? So she kept changing her clothes to match the jewelry she was gonna highlight. She kept leaning over into the camera, and basically all you saw was cleavage. So it's like, kind of think about those cameras and how you're presenting things, all right? All right, so we learned all kinds of great things. So I think there are some really cool uses for virtual parties. So I want you to think creatively of different ways you could use this platform. So let me give you some examples. So certainly there's the typical party scenario where the hostess invites her guests, and I'm going to give you some pointers about that in just a minute, but the hostess invites her guests and everybody gets together at the same time on the party. You do your presentation and you take it to a close. Okay, that's the typical party. I like to see a platform where everybody, you can see their faces through their webcams and everybody can connect and engage. The second thing, and something I do want to point out though, is that if you're serious about getting great results for virtual parties, this is not a platform for people who are just trying to cut corners and be lazy, okay? Because you do have to work these just as much as you work your live parties. The second thing is, so let's say that you do have connections around the country. Well, when I was building my business, you didn't have this option. So you either had to make a commitment to travel there and use it as a business write-off and vacation, or you needed to find a consultant to give that party away to. This way you can keep those parties, and you can even reach out and do some virtual work to actually talk to them about the business. Okay, but more about that later. All right, so obviously if you have people around the country, doing this type of party is perfect. Another way that you can use this is, let's say that you've got little kids and all of a sudden for whatever reason your husband is not home, or maybe you don't have one, who knows, and you've got childcare issues. Okay, so you could, as long as you've got the right supplies and things over to the hostess's home, you could actually do the virtual party simply by having the hostess bring you up on Skype, and so all of her friends are still at her house, but you come up on Skype and do the party, right? So you can get through some of those kinds of challenges by making use of this platform. Another thing I like about it, so I love to go out and meet people, and I'm really good at it. and so that was a way that I constantly generated leads for my former business. Well, if you think about it, those people aren't always comfortable to go to some stranger's home. Yes, you're making friends with them, but these days, with all the craziness on the news, some people might not be that comfortable to drive to your home and attend, at your house. And so this is a really cool way, again, when you work this the right way, that you could bring in people that you've met at different kinds of networking functions, and do a party and get them excited about your products and hopefully host a party themselves, whether virtual or live, okay? This would be an awesome platform to run fundraisers. Now, if I was doing this with a fundraiser, I would actually want to record webinars and have webinars out there that could run at different times for like a week, where all of my fundraising people could log in, watch the presentation, and place their orders. So it would be coaching them through how to do that. So you could get lots of people through by doing more of a webinar platform. And I also think you could consider doing multi-hostess events through virtual parties. Because usually if you do that kind of event where you're going to have 2, 3, 4 hostesses at the same time, often you have to find a venue, right, and work the room that way, where you could creatively, put people in different locations and have all of them bring you up on a Google Hangout, and you could have the 4 different parties going on at the same time. So I want you to think creatively. There's all kinds of ways you can apply these virtual techniques, okay? All right. So, like I said, different types of virtual parties need different platforms. So I've already talked about recording a webinar and posting it for people. I've talked about having everyone connected where they can see each other and talk and communicate. I've talked about where you are coming in virtually, but the guests at the party are all at the hostess's home just watching you on the screen. So there's all kinds of ways to use this platform. So from what I have learned, if you learn some very specific techniques that I will be teaching my students, there's no reason your virtual party can't have results that are just as strong as live parties, okay? So I want to talk first about lead versus prospect. People mix these up a lot. Okay, now if you go and you do a vendor event and you run, some sort of drawing, and a bunch of people come by and fill out your drawing slips and put their names in the bucket, a lot of times consultants incorrectly consider those to be prospects for their business or prospects for hosting a party. And there might be some in that bucket of slips, right? But really what you got are names on paper. So you've got leads, but they're not necessarily prospects. And when I say prospects, I'm not just talking about looking at your business. I'm meaning a prospect might be a future customer or a future hostess or someone who wants to look at your business, okay? But I want you to be really clear on this, because doing virtual parties should become a way that you can collect information and really develop your prospects. So there's 3 different things to really consider, and I really want to make some strong recommendations on this. So I know we have people from several different companies on with us tonight here. So you want to first do a really great job, and you want to invite, coach your hostess to invite her guests a little differently. And what I mean by that is, when you're using a platform like a Google Hangout, you can have 10 people total on that platform. So she needs to be really selective. Number one, that the people are tech savvy, okay? Not that they have to be pros, but they have to be able to follow the instructions and practice logging in to get on. Google Hangouts can be, it's easier than it used to be, but it can be a little tricky. The second thing is that you want to get a confirmation if people are attending, because you are going to send those people by the good old US mail their party packet. Now, sometimes people hear that and they think, oh, that's really expensive if I have to put something in the mail or whatever. Lead generation is expensive if you really crunch your numbers. So if it's simply spending a couple bucks to mail people a catalog plus several specific handouts that I recommend that you include in these packets, that's a really inexpensive way to generate leads. So so definitely it's something that you want to get in the mail. Plus, and when I say it's an inexpensive way, it's because you now have all of their contact information, right? So if they have to fill this out in order for you to send them their their party packet, now you've got all their information. So that's the key part of this. Plus, they'll, when they are getting that packet, because they've committed to being there, it can really work to increase your attendance. Okay. So they're going to get their pre-party packet. You'll have, obviously a catalog. I would be putting in a wish list and encouraging them to look at some of your favorites before the party starts. I would have some drawing type things in there, something that if they all join the party on time, one for them staying till the end, and so do some fun creative things. Don't spend a ton of money on these giveaways, but I'm just saying you want people engaged and you want them having fun, whether it's live or virtual. All right. During the party, you're going to go through things just like you always go through them. So, you're going to explain features and benefits of your products. I recommend some very specific strategies on how you can position a high-priced product so that now everything else in your line seems inexpensive. You want to definitely get them writing out and making their wish lists. And certainly you want to get their feedback and engagement and get them participating in the party. Okay, now here's what I really strongly recommend. I learned this from one of my coaching students. Her name's Marie, and she has built her entire Ruby Ribbon business doing it virtually. And in her case, she has some health considerations, and so it's really, really hard for her physically if she has to go and carry her samples from the car and set up her rack. She sells Ruby Ribbon shapewear. Okay, and because I used to sell clothing, when I found out she was doing her parties virtually for her shapewear, I was absolutely shocked, right? Because you think, okay, it's closed, so you've got to work to do the try-ons. And I'm like, what are you? I asked her, I said, what are you doing? So you're not, selling these people clothes and then dealing with returns and exchanges for 2 months because you got them in the wrong size. She spends probably half an hour on the phone with every single customer the day after the party. I mean, literally showing them her sizing and picking up her shirt and showing them her shapewear and, explaining how things would fit. I mean, she spends tons of time on it, but that's how she can work her business, and she's doing extremely well, right? All right, so what I recommend you do is that you have each guest. So I wouldn't want the party part of this to last more than half an hour, okay? Especially when people are at their own house, they tend to get a little antsier, right? Because they know, they can hear their husband doing something in the other room, or the kids are supposed to be in bed or whatever. So I wouldn't want the party to take more than half an hour, but then I would be making an appointment for the hour following the party, right? So let's say it goes from 7 to 7:30, I'd be scheduling to connect with every single guest for the next hour to hour and a half immediately following the party. All right, so think of that as your virtual order table. So you can connect with them, you can talk about their order before they place it, but then they can go place it online as you're talking, right? And then you can talk to them about booking their own party. And of course, you can ask if they want to take a closer look at the business, because, when you get really good at this, then you should easily be able to do virtual information, meetings with prospects, either one-on-one using FaceTime or Skype or something, or you could even schedule times when you invite small groups to connect through your platform. Really think about that. Now, one of the questions I had earlier today, and it was a great question, and that is, the person was selling skincare stuff, and she said, they really need to experience the product. How can I do that? Well, what I asked her was, does your company have little sample packets of your products? And she said, yes, they do. Well, that's part of what's going to go in your party packet, right? So really think of ways that you can get something in your customers' hands. Like I know I had a coaching student in Scentsy. She would make like little teeny chips of some of the different scents, and she could have mailed a little bag of that in with her party packet. So think creatively about this stuff. All right, so that's just the start, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways I talked about earlier, different creative ways you can use the virtual platform. There's all kinds of things you can do with these parties so that they're super, super successful. So we are launching my new virtual parties course, but here's what's cool. All right, so I'm not willing to teach people anything that I have not tried myself or tested, or really that I'm absolutely 100% confident that they can get results doing the techniques I recommend. And so as much as we've studied this, I know these things work well, I still am looking for that first group of consultants that will grab hold, that they're coachable, and that they can be really part of our initial group that we would use as case studies in the course going forward, and that we can use as testimonials as we post more information about this on my website and start selling the course. So we are doing this really big special for this first group, okay? Normally when this course comes out in 2016, which is our official launch date, is the very beginning of 2016, the course is going to be $597. It is 8 weeks of hands-on training. We want people to get this going, practice, feel comfortable with it. We want them to do 2 or 3 parties during that time frame. And I want to attend as many as I can. Obviously I can't attend everybody's party every night of the week, but I want to definitely try to at least attend 1 party from each person in the course. And so it's literally, you get the training module, and we're doing those live on a virtual platform, hint, hint. They will be recorded and posted in our new online platform for courses. And so you still have access to it, but we want to help you through any speed bumps and really get you good at these things. So when it's the right option, and I want to stress that, when it's the right option, that this is something you can do. Now, like I know Lori, Lori she lives in the New Jersey area, but she's got a big group of connections in Michigan, right, Lori? And so this is something that would be super helpful for her. Super helpful for her because she is, because she's got those connections, so she could, take advantage of that. Lisa posted, I imagine that the booking bids are different for a virtual party. Actually, Lisa, no, they really aren't. When you're telling people the benefits of being a hostess, it maybe 1 or 2. I mean, if girlfriend get together, they're still getting together virtually, right? Probably the only bid that I can think of, and these are really fresh in my mind because we've been loading up all the modules in my bookings course, and the hostess benefit, turn them into booking bids, is probably the longest and probably the most important module in the entire course. And probably so we go through every single different kind of hostess benefit in that section, and probably the only one I can think about that it might not work at a virtual party is if you want to show off, like if the hostess wants to show off that they just remodeled their house, or if the hostess wants to match the things in the collection to her wardrobe, but those are, those just two, but people should have 10, 12, 14 different booking bids that are easy to incorporate. So no, I really don't see that your bids would be any different, because it's still all about this hostess and why it's great for somebody to consider hosting a party, whether live or virtual. Okay, and again, don't feel like just because people attended a virtual party, if they live close to you, don't feel like they have to still book a virtual party, right? I mean, turn that into a live party, because still being live with people is right there in their living rooms. That's a lot of fun, and certainly that's a great way to make connections. What I'm just saying is, if you work these virtual parties the right way, you should still be able to have spectacular results. Okay. So normally, and when this course launches in January, it'll be $597. But right now, as part of our testing program to get this, any kinks worked out, again, we've done 8 months worth of work on this. We really have this, we think we've got it pretty much nailed, but you never know if there's something that comes up, and it's always helpful. Lisa says it's not a girls' night out. Well, technically, I know some friends who virtual parties is when they all connect on FaceTime or Skype or whatever they do. For some of them, that is a girls' night out. We don't think, our generation doesn't think of it as girls' night out, but gals in their 30s absolutely do. So, all right. So let's see here. So the bottom line is, if this is something you want to be part of, see, one of the things that has happened quite often is that when I either feature a consultant on some of my training, or they have testimonials on my websites or whatever, they often get connections with people just because they hear about them and they're looking for something new. So it can actually be a great way for you to get exposure for your business. So I'm just putting the link here. We do have a limited number of spaces because of, again, me, my plan to attend a lot of the parties, and we really want this to be very hands-on as we help people implement these techniques. So that's the link to the information. Again, it doesn't have everything spelled out about what we're covering each week in the course, but you can get that huge discount of just $197. So that's the scoop. So what other questions? You had some great questions. What other questions do you all have tonight? Have you been doing virtual parties? Have they been successful for you? Give me some feedback. Have you been doing any? Give me the scoop. Any questions, you guys? Any comments, questions? I know I went through a lot of information quickly, but the bottom line is, if you really get serious about becoming a great, a great virtual party consultant, you can do some really super things with this. So that's the scoop. All right, well, if Lisa said, oh, you haven't done any yet, okay? All right, well, check it out. If you've got any questions, let me know. This will fill very, very quickly. So with that, thank you for being here. I know some of you for sure are on the East Coast time, so you're all up late. And so thank you very much for being here. If you have any additional questions on this course, or anything about virtual parties. Lori says, no, I like to drive. Yeah, all the way to Michigan. All right, so thanks, you guys. Have a super evening, and I will be, oh, wait. So if I understand you correctly, I should mail the hostess and guests some tea samples, and then we brew together. Absolutely. In fact, Lisa, you do that cute demonstration where you teach people how to slurp it, and you do that thing where you talk about how much they put in for a cup and that they can reuse the tea leaves 2 or 3 times depending on the tea and all that. So all that stuff can be done very easily. Your packet would let them know what they need to have ready for when you do the party, right? So, certainly do you need to send them 6 different teas? I don't know how that works for you, but definitely a couple different teas that they can try while you're presenting your information. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Super. Get it out there. So, and the big thing is the follow up and close, right? So when Marie does it the next day, okay, Marie's my coaching student who sells Ruby Ribbon. When she's doing it the next day, it's because she has a small, young son. I think he's probably 5 now, and her husband is a bartender, so he's gone in the evenings. So she's, she can't really follow up immediately afterwards because she's got to get her son to bed, right? So, so for her, she schedules the appointments the next day. Plus, she's really spending the time to make sure, lots of time to talk about sizing and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if she can do it with clothes, you can do it with pretty much anything. So I really would want to do the follow up though right there immediately. I mean, because you want to move them, right to their orders and right to that follow up. And I would schedule a follow up appointment even if somebody is not planning to place an order. I would still want that appointment, and I'd want to just get their feedback and ask if they have any questions, and they might still want to book a party, right? Because just because they don't place an order doesn't mean they don't love your products. It might mean that their budget's tight. Perfect reason to book a party. So I would want to do that follow up quickly, and I'd want to do it with every single person immediately after the party. Okay? All right. Any other great questions? All right. Well, we would love to have you be one of our special test students in this course for this fall. So that's the link. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, we'd love to have you in the course and help you really master virtual parties. So again, thank you for being here, you guys. Have a terrific evening. Lisa says I won't be showing my cleavage either. Thank you for that. I won't be either. All right. Have a great night, you guys. Bye-bye.